Hey everyone, there's a few people here already, but I'm going to wait another 30 seconds before we get started, so it won't be too long. Okay, so it's around 1:01, so I think I'm going to get started because this is being recorded, so anybody that's a little bit late will still get access to this. So hi everybody, my name is Sophie and I'm part of the customer success team based in Toronto. Thank you for taking the time to join us for today's introductory webinar, which is part of our October Workflows series. Today, our introductory webinar will have a particular focus on Sabre and Clientbase users. So while I'll still be going over all of the main Umapped features, our focus today will be on optimizing the trip publisher for Sabre and Clientbase users. So during today's webinar, you will learn how Umapped is helping leading global brands and travel advisors engage with their customers throughout their entire travel journey. By using our collaborative experience platform, you can deliver interactive, branded, and consolidated mobile proposals and itineraries with relevant content and messaging for your clients. You'll also see how the platform maximizes productivity and streamlines your business workflow. During today's 35-minute webinar, we'll start with an overview of the client experience. So taking a look at how your clients will receive and view their trips online, via the mobile app, and then as a PDF. Next, we'll demo Umapped's online trip building platform for travel professionals, which is called the Trip Publisher. And we'll finish today's webinar with a review of the training resources and the support that's available to you, making sure to save some time for a live Q&A. Just before we get right into it, I want to make sure that everybody has access to a complimentary trial. So if you haven't already signed up for a trial, visit umapped.com/trial or your specific consortia page, or go to our main page, which is umapped.com, and click on the sign up button located in the top right corner of the page, and then complete the trial form. After submitting your request, our customer success team will send you a confirmation email with your account credentials and login instructions. Okay, so let's begin our live demo by reviewing the client experience. When ready, your client's trips are initially delivered by email and are available in 3 different formats. Clients can access their trips online, as a PDF, and via the Umapped mobile app. All formats of the trip are branded for you and include your company logo and contact details. So this in front of me right now is an example of the email that your clients will receive, giving them access to their trip. Your branding and contact details are displayed at the bottom of the email, just beneath the links they need in order to access their trip. So it's all sort of in the same first glance. This email is all your client needs in order to access their trip, no matter what kind of version. They can click on this View Your Trip button in order to access the web view of their trip, as well as the trip PDF. Or they can click on the App Store or Google Play Store icons in order to download the Umapped mobile app. So let's start by taking a look at the web view. This View Your Trip button opens a dynamic trip link that can be bookmarked and then accessed at any time. When your clients are accessing the web view for the very first time, they're just going to need to enter their email address in order to validate that they're actually a traveler on this trip. So it's just an initial security feature. And then the first thing your clients will see in their day-by-day itinerary is your branding right at the top. Your branding and contact information is always displayed front and center. And there is also a download button for the trip PDF, of which we have 2 different versions. A full PDF, or the print-friendly option, which just doesn't have any images. So I'm going to download the PDF and then come back to this in a few moments. Your clients can view their day-by-day trip details and any important information that you have included in their trip just by scrolling down. The amount of details or information in the trip is always up to you based on your clients and the type of trip. All of the photos that have been added here have been added from one of the many image libraries available in the Trip Publisher. We have hotel and cruise photos already preloaded for many properties and cruise lines, as well as a photo library that's licensed for commercial reuse. Also note this little chat icon which displays on trip segments. This is the messenger feature. When enabled, it allows for real-time chat and notifications which your clients can access on the web view or the mobile app. And when your clients chat with you using the messenger, you'll receive an email notification and you can even reply directly from your email. And you can also access these kinds of chat messages from within the trip publisher itself. And your reply, just like this, will display into the chat window. And on flight segments, let me just scroll up to one. This is also where your clients will receive any day of flight notifications, which are powered by our third-party flight tracker. So that means 24 hours prior to departure, if there's been a flight change, like a gate change or a delay or cancellation, those announcements will all be right here. You'll also notice the little add icon, this blue plus button in the bottom right corner. This is the traveler collaboration feature that is available for both the web view as well as the mobile app. So this allows your clients to build and personalize their trip details with information including dinner reservations, trip notes, activities, essentially anything that they've booked on their own. So while they can't edit or delete any of the segments that you've added, it allows them to consolidate all of their information in one place with one consolidated view of their trip. And now, since I've gone over most of the body of the itinerary, I'm going to kind of explore some of the icons and categories here at the top. So right next to the itinerary tab, the Documents tab is where any supporting documentation for the trip is available. So this can include PDF attachments like vouchers or e-tickets, destination content, or any other important travel information that your clients may need to reference. Right beside that, the trip map will pinpoint all of the destinations that your clients are traveling to. And there's also a trip calendar where clients can view all of the trip details in a calendar view with the option to sync to a personal Google Calendar, iCal, or Outlook calendar. The web view itself is mobile responsive and will resize to fit to whatever device your client is using, so they can still access this from a tablet or their phone or a desktop. Otherwise, there is that PDF version that I mentioned earlier, so I have that open right over here. So the PDF simply provides a printable option for your customers who might still prefer paper. There are 4 different design templates that you can select from in your preferences in the trip publisher, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. And then just before we get into the meat of it, I'm just going to share my full screen and we're going to open up the mobile simulator. Just a second. So your clients also have the option to download the Umapped mobile app from either the App Store or the Google Play Store, so that they can view their trips on their smartphones while they're on the go or in destination. One of the great benefits of the mobile app is that trip details are available even when your client's phone is offline, so even if they don't have Wi-Fi or a network connection. Additionally, if I go into a flight or an accommodation segment and just scroll down, just a second, you can see that they can access directions as well as live weather reporting. And again, at the very top of all of your trips, your branding is always front and center, along with all of the different ways that your clients can quickly get in touch with you. Okay, so let me share my main screen again. And close that. Okay, so now that you can see what your clients will receive, I'm going to show you around the trip publisher itself, which is Umapped's trip building application for travel professionals. This is where you can build and edit proposals and itineraries. So to log in, go to pub-trip.umapped.com and remember to bookmark this link for future visits. I'm just going to put my credentials in and then log in. Once you're logged in, you're going to immediately be taken to your dashboard. On the top right is where your account details will be displayed. If you click on that little silhouette there, a couple different options are going to appear from the drop-down. So you'll see My Account, Submit Feedback, Send us an email, and Log Out. For any new users, I usually suggest selecting My Account in order to update your user profile information, as these are all of the details which are going to actually display on that client experience we just reviewed. And this is also where you can come to change your password. Additionally, within the My Accounts option, there's a couple different tabs that you can sort through. So you have the option to select your user profile, your preferences, or plans. Of course, user profile is where you can come to edit your contact info. And beside that, preferences is where you can update your account preferences. So this can include those features I mentioned like traveler collaboration, traveler messaging, etc., as well as those 4 different PDF layouts that I mentioned. So it oscillates between thumbnails, only, large photos, a mix of the two, or no photos at all. And then finally, you can click on plans to view and update your billing details, download invoices, and etc., and just come to see what plan you're currently on. So on your dashboard, which you can now return to by clicking on Back to Trips in the top left corner, you can view all of the trips that you have created within this default tab, My Trips. Your dashboard is also where you can search and access all of your past and present trips. Depending on your plan type and the number of users in your company, you may also be able to view all of the trips that have been created by your company by selecting Company Trips. Selecting the filters icon at the top over here beside the search bar will allow you to filter through your trips by the date, so whether it's an active or a past trip, by the trip status, so if it's pending or published, and even by the creation date of the trip. And then of course you can also filter by a keyword. So I'm just going to remove all of those now, go back to the neutral default. We're going to explore some of the other features offered through Umapped as well. Clicking on the menu icon right here in the top left will reveal some other tabs, such as the Library and Admins tab. From within Library, the Templates, Documents, Vendors, and Tags tabs are covered in some of our more advanced webinars, and these allow you to save profiles for various suppliers, as well as content for guides and other templated notes. Additionally, I'd also just like to highlight the support portal. So by clicking on this support button, you can gain access to our online knowledge portal, where you can also send questions to our customer success team. Again, I'll mention that a little at the end as well when we talk about training and resources, but just so you know, that is embedded within the trip publisher itself. So you don't have to go externally to go find the support help desk. Okay, so let's go back to our trips dashboard. And let's click the plus new button at the top right of the dashboard to start the trip building process and really get into the meat of creating your trips. Once you've started, enter a name for your trip, as well as the travel start and end dates. So I'm gonna say 6th to the 14th. And you also have the option to add trip tags, which is a great way to apply labels to your trips so that you can easily locate them in your dashboard later on. So for instance, if I'm going to London and Barcelona in this trip, I might want to add those as tags. And then click Create Trip to save this new trip. On the main page of your trip, you'll see a large gray thumbnail image. Click on this image in order to add your cover photo. We always recommend adding a cover photo, as this is the background image that displays on the traveler email, as well as the different formats of the client experience that we just reviewed. So there are a couple different options in order to add a photo. The first of which is by selecting Search Photo Library. This is a free library of licensed images that is available to all users. The second is searching the web with a keyword and a website URL. Or you can always upload your own photo. So for our sample today, I'm going to search the web using a keyword. So let's go with London, and I'll look up Unsplash because Unsplash has tons of really nice free for commercial use photos. So if you need a generic photo of a location, I always recommend Unsplash. I really can't say that enough. So let's look through here right now. I'll take this one right here and upload. Okay, So in today's demo, I'm going to highlight how you can easily consolidate bookings from a variety of our integrated systems like Sabre and Clientbase, as well as really get into the technical aspects of Sabre and Clientbase, since this is mostly focusing on that workflow. But we'll also look at how to import from partnered suppliers, how to add your own trip segments, and then how to share or send a trip to your travelers. So I'm going to begin on the left side of the screen and then gradually make my way over to the right. So we're going to skip over travelers for the moment because that's what we're going to talk about towards the end when we're sending this off. We're going to go straight to import bookings, which is the most important space for anybody that uses one of our integrations. So import bookings is where you can access the different system integrations that are available to you. So this is where you would come to import your GDS PNRs, client-based res cards, and access any booking confirmation emails that you have forwarded into the trip publisher. You can also import from Sabre Tripcase, Travelport, and WorldSpan by clicking on this second tab, PNR Import. If you use Sabre, we have a direct integration allowing you to queue your PNRs to the trip publisher. A one-time setup is required per agency, which then allows all the users within that agency to queue their PNRs to the trip publisher. Your PNRs can then be retrieved from this booking inbox tab and added to your trip. So here's how it works. I'm going to enter my sample PNR into the keyword box and click on search. Give that a second. You can then select the drop-down arrow to view all of the details of this PNR, and then select the options icon and click add to trip. This particular PNR contains flights and accommodations only, but anything that has been booked in Sabre, or even not booked but added in Sabre, I know that some people can make unconfirmed bookings within Sabre, so anything that's in your PNR will be imported, formatted, and then ordered chronologically. The best part about this integration with Sabre is that anytime that you make a change to the PNR in Sabre, all you have to do is re-queue it to the trip publisher, and then your trip will automatically update. And if you need to view or edit information within a specific segment, click on View Details. A right drawer will open up, and you can now view all of the segment information. So in this flight segment, I can see the passenger details, as well as some additional airline details. And then I can make edits to any of these different categories just by clicking on the pencil icon right here, or delete it by clicking on the trash icon. The client-based integration is a very similar workflow. Just like with the Sabre PNRs, your res cards are also accessible via the booking inbox. Just enter the res card number in the keyword field, click on search, and then follow the same steps as demonstrated when adding my Sabre PNR. You can again select the drop-down arrow to view what's included in this PNR, and then add it to your trip. It's good to note that Umapped syncs to the Tram Central database 6 times a day. So please allow up to 3 hours for your res cards or edits to existing res cards to be available and updated in the trip publisher to account for both the Umapped sync frequency as well as your company's sync frequency. Please also note that res cards created over 6 months prior to the date of import won't be synced or retrievable from the booking inbox. So usually my workaround for this is just to suggest copying and pasting them into a new res card, or changing the dates of the res card if that's possible. And then finally, since the client-based integration is a two-way integration, not only can you import bookings from Clientbase into the trip publisher, but you can also import bookings from the trip publisher back into Clientbase. This feature is called the Clientbase Live Connect, and it's accessible within the Clientbase window by navigating to Utilities. One second, let me just pull up Live Connect, User Setup. So it's available within Clientbase window by navigating to Utilities and then selecting Live Connect Providers, where Umapped is listed as a Live Connect provider, or from Clientbase Online by going to Tools, then Settings, then Live Connect Providers. If that's something that interests you, I recommend checking out the Live Connect User Setup Support solution. on our support portal, as this solution provides not only instructions, but also photos for you to reference. Going back, the Clientbase and Sabre integrations do require an initial setup. So if you want to know more about how to get either one of these setups for your company, or more instructions about fees, or who can use them in permission settings and all that stuff, please contact our customer success team for further instructions following our webinar. You may also be able to use the Sabre or Clientbase integrations if you happen to have a host agency that already has it set up in the system. So if you do have that, just reach out to us. Like I just did, by the way, if you need to go back to your main page at any point during the trip building process, simply select Trip on the left-hand side of the navigation menu. So we're going to skip over Import Template because it's kind of what it says on the tin. You can import a template directly into your trip if you have one already published. And we're going to go straight to Suppliers. So Suppliers is where you can import bookings or content from a list of partner tour operators or DMCs. Our list of DMCs is down here at the bottom, and it will take you to the DMC page where you can then click on any of these different icons here in order to send an email to the DMC's main contact and get in touch with them. All right, all of these different integrations work slightly different. So if something requires a setup like Project Expeditions, just reach out to our customer support team in order to get that set up. But some of them are quite simple, like Star Travel, which just either needs a reference number or a keyword to search by available tours. So even if it hasn't been booked yet. Moving on from Suppliers, we're going to go to Destination Content. So Umapped is partnered with AFAR and W Cities, giving you access to curated guides and recommendations for over 500 destinations around the world. For AFAR, you can either add destination guides or specific recommendations. Select from the list of trip destinations, or click Search by City Name, and then click on Search. From here, if it looks good, all you need to do is add to trip, select a date, and then confirm that date. I prefer to usually add these larger destination guides towards the end of my trip, which is why I chose way later on in my trip. For W Cities, select a destination and content type from the source drop-down menu, and then click on Search. From here, select the checkbox to the right of the content that you wish to include, select Add to Trip, choose a date, so I'm going to choose October 5th, and then add that to your trip. And there are also several different ways that you can attach PDF, Word, or library documents to a trip. The first is by selecting Documents from this left side. Select File Attachments, and then click the Attach File button. So I'm going to add a sample voucher from my desktop. Let's go to my desktop, Voucher, Attach. And then if you need to preview or remove your document, select the ellipses for more options. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier on in this webinar, you can create, store, and manage your own content within your library. So for our sample today, I'm going to add a city guide for London that was previously created by clicking on the Content from Library tab and then clicking on Add Document. Then I'm going to search London in the keyword search, select the document, and click Add Document. You can also add a supporting document right from within your trip page, so clients can easily access it when viewing their trip in both the web view and the mobile app. So I'll select Trip to head back to the main page. Click on View Details, so let's do the Lanesborough. View details for the particular segment that I want to link the supporting PDF or Word document to, and then select Attach File at the bottom right side of the drawer and upload a file. So this time I'm going to choose my e-ticket, attach that, and then voila. You can click on the little eye icon if you want to preview it, or the trash icon to delete. And you can see that there's that little paperclip indicator, the little icon, which will indicate that there is something attached to this particular segment for your travelers. You can actually see that in the web view on the Lanesboro. I've got this little paper clip. So if my travelers click on this, they'll notice exactly what has been attached to this segment. So they know that this e-ticket has to do with this segment. Okay, moving on, after documents, we have calendar. And this just provides you with a calendar view of the trip. And then last but not least, we have settings where you can view and edit trip details. So you can select the ellipses to the right of the trip name and dates to duplicate a trip, create a new template from your trip, or delete the trip altogether. This is also where you can come to do some co-branding if you have a collaborator. And then up here at the top, we have the audit log where you can view a history of actions for a particular trip. So I can see who's done what, at what time, and what's been modified, added, or removed. Okay, so let's head back to our main page. And now let's go a little into how to manually create your own trip segments. So though you might be pushing the majority of your bookings from Sabre or Clientbase, you may have to add a segment last minute, add something your travelers have booked on your own, or maybe just add a note to further enhance your trip. So in the bottom right corner of the page, you can click this add icon to add your own segments, add cruise content, and trip notes. So let's start by adding a hotel in Rome. We're going to go up here and click on accommodation and then search for my hotel. So I'll add the Rome Cavalieri Waldorf Astoria from October 7th to the 13th, and then add that to my trip. You can see that this hotel already came preloaded with photos of the property as well as information about the hotel. And now all I need to do is add in my relevant traveler details. But other than that, the profile itself is already created. To add a cruise, click the add icon and then select cruise. Enter the ship name, the sailing month and year, and then click the Find Cruises button. So I'm going to search for the Norwegian Epic, October of 2020, and find cruises. And then all of the itineraries associated with that ship will be right here. So I just have to pick the appropriate itinerary and sailing date until it grays out, and then come down to import that into my trip. I won't for this just because I don't want to have too much in this trip. And you can also add a trip note. So this feature allows you to add a customized note for your clients that can include detailed links, tables, photos, and embedded videos. So for our sample today, I will add a bon voyage message for my clients. So I'm going to select note and then add a title. So for this, I'll just say, have a fantastic trip. The dates and the times are entirely optional depending on the kind of note that you're adding. Otherwise, it'll just go to the very top of your trip. And now I'll just add some details in the body of it. So let's say, thank you for booking with us. And then I'm going to add this to my trip. And then again, those are those interactive features that you can continue to add. So links, photos, videos, a file if need be. And like I was mentioning, within the free text domain body itself, you can always create a table. I find these are really good for if you need to have like a price layout or something like that. Proposals really can use tables, so that's always available as well. Okay, let's close that. Okay, so let's say I've got everything all together and my trip is ready to go. At any point during the trip building process, you have the opportunity to publish a trip by selecting the Publish button at the top right side of the page. Once a trip is published, it is live and all formats of the client experience will be available. So the web, PDF, and mobile versions. When publishing, you have the option to leave a note that will display in the traveler email, or you can just go ahead and publish the trip. This trip is dynamic, so you always have the option to make any edits or changes later on. If there are ever any significant updates, always remember to republish the trip so the changes will be reflected on your client's view. And now that my trip is published, let's go into a little bit about these icons that appear to the right of my trip name and dates. So the first one is the merge trip icon. This is simply how I can merge this trip I'm working on into another trip. Of course, doing so will delete the trip that I'm in right now, so I'm not going to do that, but it's how you can combine a couple different trips that maybe end up being one trip. Like if you have two families that end up deciding to go together somewhere. Beside that, we have the share icon, which you can use to invite collaborators or travelers. You can use the collaborator feature to share your trip with other travel professionals like suppliers, DMCs, vendors, and tour operators. And travelers is either accessible from this share icon or from the left-hand side. And there's really no difference between the two. The only reason we have one on the left side as well is that if you happen to be in another page and you wanted to go straight to travelers, it's a little bit more convenient. So now that I'm here in my traveler page, I'm going to actually add a traveler. So I'm going to click on the Add Traveler button, put in my traveler's email and first and last name. You can see that actually, because I use this traveler so frequently, I do have the first and the last name auto-populating for me. And then I'm just going to add my traveler. Once you've added your traveler, your clients will receive a personalized, branded email with all of the information they need in order to access their trip. And it's that same email I showed you at the very top of the day. And now let's go back to our trip and look at the last two icons. So next to the share icon, we have the preview icon, which you can use to access the web view as well as both PDF versions. And then last but not least, we have this little pencil icon, which you can use to edit the main trip details like the trip name, dates, and any tags. Okay, so over the course of this webinar, we've reviewed various versions of the client experience, from the PDF, the web, to the mobile versions, highlighting some benefits and features for the clients, as well as how to build a trip in the trip publisher experience, reviewing popular integrations throughout our trip building process, most specifically Sabre and Clientbase, some suppliers, as well as destination and cruise content and vendor profiles. So you should now be familiar with how to create a trip, specifically using the Clientbase and Sabre workflow, but we also have some tools that will help you along the way. Our support portal, which you can access either from directly in the trip publisher or at pub-support.umapped.com, is where you can access a getting started guide, which will feature all of the different ways to get started in your account, or step-by-step instructions for all of the different features that I mentioned today. So if you come to the bottom to system integrations, this is where you can look at how to get your company set up for Sabre Live, how to use it as a user, the different versions of Clientbase, from the Clientbase Sync, which is inside of the trip publisher itself, to Clientbase Live Connect, which is just that other half of the two-way integration. So it's all in here. Or even if you just want to upload a Clientbase invoice, which is also an option for anybody that isn't interested in the integration but does use Clientbase. We also highly encourage anyone that would like to sign up for one of our daily one-on-one meetings, where you can schedule a personalized meeting with a member of our customer success team to talk about your own business needs and workflow, or one of our more advanced webinars. For instance, this upcoming week, we have something on templates and tagging. And after that, we're going to be talking about optimizing your workflow using integrations and email forwarding. If you do have any suggestions for things you'd like to see in the future, you can also email those suggestions to us at support@umapped.com. And I'll also be sharing a recording of today's webinar so that you can review this again on your own time if need be. So with that, I'm going to move into the Q&A portion of this webinar. So thank you again for attending. If you can't stay for this portion of the webinar, and if you are going to leave your questions, you could do so in the Q&A or the chat. Either one works for me. And if there are no questions, I'll just end this in the next few minutes. So I'm just going to have a sip of water while I wait. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any questions just yet. So I will probably end this webinar since we've come to the 35-minute mark. But if any questions occur to anybody later on, just not during the webinar, you can always reach out to us at support@umapped.com. That's also how you can get in touch with us about getting the Clientbase and the Sabre integrations set up for you and your company. Or check to see if your host agency has the integration already set up. Anyway, so thank you all for joining. If you do have any questions, you can always reach out to us at support@umapped.com, or like I mentioned, sign up for one of those one-on-one meetings if you have a specific question. Oh, let's see, I actually see something in the chat. Rinky asked, is this appropriate for online business? I suppose it depends on what you mean by online business. But I would say yes, if you're booking travel for other people, Trip Publisher is exactly appropriate for that, if I'm understanding that question correctly. No problem. All right, so thank you everybody for joining. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Have a great rest of your day and take care.